Sleep is one of the most essential functions for our survival, growth, and cognitive performance, yet so many people struggle to get the deep, restorative sleep their brains and bodies desperately need. It's easy to blame external factors, stress, environment, screens, but at the core of the problem often lies a disruption in the neurobiological mechanisms that govern the sleep process. Today, I want to focus on one habit, one simple yet profoundly effective action that, if done consistently, can unlock deep sleep every single night. This habit is not a pill, a gadget, or a supplement. It's a behavioral practice grounded in the biology of our brain and body, and it's accessible to everyone. Before I reveal the habit, let's first understand what deep sleep really is and why it matters so much. Sleep isn't a monolithic state. It consists of cycles that include light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Deep sleep, also called slow wave sleep, is the phase when your brain waves slow down dramatically, your heart rate drops, your breathing becomes regular, and your body releases growth hormone. This phase is crucial for physical restoration, memory consolidation, immune function, and metabolic health. Without sufficient deep sleep, you can expect cognitive fog, decreased learning ability, impaired immune responses, and even increased risk of metabolic diseases like diabetes. Yet, deep sleep often suffers when our circadian rhythm, the internal clock that dictates when we feel awake and sleepy, is misaligned, or when external factors interfere with the brain's ability to initiate and maintain the right neurochemical environment. One of the central regulators of deep sleep is a chemical called adenosine. Adenosine is a neuromodulator that builds up in your brain the longer you are awake. This buildup creates sleep pressure, a biological drive that makes you feel sleepy and ready for deep sleep by the time your head hits the pillow. Think of adenosine as a kind of internal debt. The longer you stay awake, the more interest you accumulate, and eventually your brain demands repayment in the form of restorative sleep. The habit that unlocks deep sleep is grounded precisely in managing this sleep pressure effectively. It involves strategically using exposure to natural light throughout the day, combined with controlling light exposure at night to synchronize your circadian clock with the buildup of adenosine and melatonin release. Why light? Because our circadian rhythm is primarily entrained by light signals detected through specialized cells in the retina. These cells send information to the suprachiasmatic nucleus SCN in the brain, which acts as the master clock. The SCN governs the timing of hormone release, body temperature fluctuations, and various neurochemical processes that prepare your brain and body for sleep. Getting natural sunlight exposure, ideally within the first hour after waking, kickstarts this clock. The intensity and spectrum of natural sunlight, especially the blue light wavelengths, effectively reset your SCN each morning. This sets the timing for melatonin production roughly 12 to 16 hours later in the evening. Melatonin is the hormone that signals to your brain that it's time to prepare for sleep, increasing sleep pressure and promoting deep sleep. But there's more. Natural light exposure also regulates the degradation of adenosine in your brain. In the absence of sufficient light or with erratic exposure, your circadian rhythm can become desynchronized, disrupting the balance between adenosine buildup and melatonin release. This imbalance results in shallow, fragmented sleep and reduced deep sleep phases. Here's the habit daily: consistent exposure to bright natural light in the morning, ideally for at least 10 to 30 minutes, is the single most powerful behavioral intervention to reliably enhance deep sleep every night. This is not about glancing out the window or sitting under indoor lighting. It's about intentional, direct exposure to outdoor sunlight. Even on cloudy days, the ambient light outside is far brighter than indoor lighting and sufficient to stimulate your circadian system. This habit does two things. First, it aligns your internal clock with the external day-night cycle, reinforcing the natural timing for melatonin release and sleep pressure accumulation. Second, it optimizes the buildup and clearance of adenosine, maximizing your sleep drive by the time you're ready to fall asleep. Complementing this morning sunlight exposure is the avoidance of bright, especially blue, light in the evening. Screens, LED lights, and overhead lighting can suppress melatonin production, delay sleep onset, and reduce deep sleep quality. So the habit is twofold: morning sunlight to reset your clock, and evening dim, warm light to permit melatonin to rise naturally. But why does this work on a neurobiological level? In the morning, bright light triggers a cascade that decreases the production of melatonin and increases cortisol slightly. This helps you feel awake and alert. Simultaneously, It facilitates the clearance of adenosine from your brain, preventing daytime sleepiness, but also priming adenosine to rebuild during waking hours efficiently. By the time evening comes, the absence of light and the buildup of adenosine signal to your brain that it's time to prepare for sleep. The pineal gland releases melatonin, which promotes sleepiness and synchronizes the timing of deep sleep cycles. This interplay between light-driven circadian signaling and adenosine-driven sleep pressure is what allows for smooth transition into deep sleep. Missing morning sunlight exposure breaks this cycle. Without a strong signal to your SCN, your circadian rhythm shifts or becomes irregular. Melatonin release gets delayed or blunted. Adenosine may build up inefficiently, causing fragmented or shallow sleep. You might fall asleep but not stay asleep, or not enter the deep stages that restore cognition and immunity. Now, some people ask, what about those who work night shifts or live in areas with limited daylight during winter? The principle still holds, but the application shifts. For night shift workers, carefully timed exposure to bright light during their daytime, say their waking hours, and strict avoidance of light during their nighttime, when they want to sleep, is critical. For those in low light environments, using full spectrum light therapy lamps in the morning can substitute for sunlight, although natural sunlight is superior because of its intensity and spectral quality. Another critical aspect is consistency. The brain's clock thrives on routine. Irregular sleep schedules, erratic light exposure, and inconsistent wake times all degrade the precision of the circadian rhythm and undermine deep sleep quality. This means that even if you get 30 minutes of sunlight one day, but stay indoors the next 2 days, your rhythm will falter. Daily practice is essential. This habit also interacts with other important lifestyle factors. Physical activity during the day, especially outdoors, can amplify the positive effects of sunlight on circadian health. Exercise increases core body temperature, which then drops in the evening to facilitate sleep onset. Eating patterns also matter. Large meals close to bedtime can delay melatonin release and disrupt deep sleep. Ideally, avoid heavy meals 2 to 3 hours before sleep. Stress is another factor. When your nervous system is in a heightened state of arousal, your brain struggles to transition into parasympathetic mode necessary for deep sleep. Mindfulness, breathing techniques, and cognitive offloading, like journaling worries before bed, can reduce stress and further enhance the quality of deep sleep. In sum, the one habit that unlocks deep sleep every night is the consistent, intentional exposure to bright natural light each morning, combined with strategic control of light in the evening. This habit synchronizes your circadian rhythm, optimizes neurochemical signals such as melatonin and adenosine, and establishes the physiological environment necessary for deep, restorative sleep. By committing to this daily practice, you give your brain the best chance to repair, consolidate memories, regulate metabolism, and restore immune function, all of which depend heavily on the quality of deep sleep. This habit is simple, natural, and within everyone's reach. It requires no expensive devices, no pills, and no complicated protocols, just a willingness to step outside and engage with the natural rhythms that have shaped human biology for millennia. If you want to improve your sleep, enhance your health, and sharpen your mind, make this happen a non-negotiable part of your daily routine. The brain and body you want tomorrow depend on the sunlight you receive today. If you want, I can provide a concluding paragraph next. In embracing this simple yet profound habit, you take control of the fundamental biological rhythms that govern your sleep and overall well-being. Consistent morning sunlight exposure is not merely a recommendation. It is a powerful, science-backed tool to harmonize your internal clock, promote the natural buildup of sleep pressure, and enable the deep restorative sleep that your brain and body require. By aligning your actions with your biology, you move beyond temporary fixes and cultivate lasting resilience, clarity, and health. The path to unlocking deep sleep every night begins with the deliberate choice to step into the light each morning, and in doing so, you give yourself the gift of true restoration night after night.